When I finished Lies of P and I sat there and watched the credits roll, I began to think about the two antagonists of the game and how they kind of mirror each other in a way. The more I thought about it, the deeper I realized the themes of Lies of P go. And this leads me to the main topic of this video, Godhood and creator versus created, and its themes in Lies of P. Before I begin though, just be warned there are major spoilers in this video, so don't watch this if you don't want to be spoiled. And these are my interpretations of the game. It's not official or anything, so just don't get mad at me. The first thought I had about the themes of Lies of P were about how Simon and Geppetto are somewhat alike. They both try to become gods in their own way, but there's a difference in how the two of them go about it and how the two of them react to it. Like I said, both men try to become a god in their own way. Firstly, Geppetto is already kind of a god in his own way as he's the creator of the puppets, but he tries to further break the line between human and god and mortal and immortal when he tries to resurrect his son with Pinocchio's heart. Simon wants to strengthen humanity and thinks so highly of himself that he believes he can surpass even God. And even their location in the endgame highlights the differences in their approach to this. Simon is at the cradle of the gods, while Geppetto is under the abyss. Simon is in a well-lit area. He is in the cradle of the gods because he thinks he's righteous in his acts. Whereas Geppetto is under the abyss, in the dark, consumed by his anger and grief at the loss of his son and Pinocchio disobeying his orders. But there is one difference between Geppetto and Simon. While Geppetto is in control of his godlike status and humanity, I don't believe that Simon is. Simon's more like a puppet in a larger scheme, and I have several examples that I think really help solidify this idea. First is the Simon Manos' confession book. In this book, the text says, "A father is like God to his son. Even I, Simon, was no different in my youth. But the one who created me was no normal human, and my abilities were extraordinary." On the second page, he writes about how he was abandoned in front of God and how he wished to create a world without lies where no one betrays you. And to me, this reads as something like manipulation. Maybe Simon was pushed to falling out of grace with his God. And this is where I think Paracelsus comes. In The Secret, after the credit ending, Paracelsus tells a woman on the phone that he has a final report on the Crot experiment. I think the Crot experiment has to do with Simon specifically because the woman says we'll have to get his arm back anyway. And I don't think they're talking about Pinocchio's arm. Because when you defeat Simon, you get the Arm of God item, which I think is what they're referring to. So my theory is that they were trying to find a way to create immortality by manipulating Simon and Ergo, and instead found a way through Pinocchio. I think this is further proven with how the woman says there are many forms of eternal life. So perhaps their original form of eternal life experiment didn't go as planned with Simon, and now Pinocchio is the other form of eternal life that they're going to look at. There is a final theory I have in regards to Simon being a puppet in a larger scheme, and that has to do with arms or hands, and I think this is where I went crazy drawing these connections. When you defeat Simon Manos, you get the Arm of God item. This is a sacred item to the alchemists because the item description says, "The alchemists believe that there was once a god who was ripped to shreds, trying to give immortal life to the humans he so loved, and they wanted to revive him. However, the god, who was deep in sleep, never answered their prayers." So in this world, I think it would be safe to say that arms and hands are religious symbolism, just based on this item and its description. And I think it's safe to say that we know Geppetto is human, and he is the creator of the puppet, so he is kind of a god in his own way. And he is a character that we can look at and use as an example. In this final battle, he uses his hand to connect the strings to the nameless puppet to get it to adhere to his will. He has a special hand. But you know who doesn't have an arm or a special hand in the first phase of his fight? Even if you get the item after you kill him, Simon, it's only after he discards his human body and transforms into a monster that he gets this special looking hand, one that brings down more glowing hands to reach out and touch him and give him the slight power of a god. So I think Simon is a metaphorical puppet trying to become a god, while Geppetto is more of a god and a human. But you know who else has a special hand? Pinocchio. Now Pinocchio's special arm is more likely due to gameplay reasons, but stick with me here. Pinocchio was created by Geppetto, but eventually surpassed his creator to become a creator himself. And we can also see this in a gameplay sense because he can divert from what other puppets do. He can lie, and he can gain humanity from lying, which makes him an other among puppets, something different from his kind. And this idea that Pinocchio becomes a god in his own way is seen through religious symbolism yet again, but with in-game and real-world symbolism. In the final ending in Lies of P, there's a scene where Sophia holds Pinocchio, similar to the Saintess of Mercy statue. This is also very similar to Pieta art in our real world. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, by the way. But the most popular example of this would be Michelangelo's Pieta. Britannica says that Pieta as a theme in Christian art is the depiction of the Virgin Mary supporting the body of the dead Christ. Pinocchio is in Jesus' position in this scene. In Christian belief, Jesus is both man and God. In the game, Pinocchio is both puppet and human, and I'm sure this isn't as intentional as the Sophia Pinocchio scene, but when Geppetto dies, they are in a very similar position to this Pieta art. This time it places Pinocchio in the position of Mary the human. So this symbolizes both Pinocchio's human and puppet side, and Pinocchio becomes a creator in his own end scene too. He brings Sophia back to life in the form of a puppet. So again, he's both like a god and like a human, and both like a human and like a puppet. And what is the connection that Geppetto and Pinocchio have that Simon don't really have? Why are Geppetto and Pinocchio successful when Simon is not? They have fancy hands. Both Geppetto and Pinocchio maintain their human-like forms, while Simon has to cast it off and become a transformed monster to have a flashy arm to begin with. And I think this creator versus created cycle will continue in the next game or the DLC, because Pinocchio created life by resurrecting Sophia as a fully new creation too, a mix of a human and a puppet. So that's my wild, fun theory and discussion about Lies of P. I've had a lot of fun looking at these similarities between Geppetto and Simon, as well as the similarities between characters and the art of the game. Thank you for watching.